Welcome everybody to FrontFundr's webinar for this week. I'm very delighted to be joined by Jaime McNally, the Due Diligence Manager, and we're going to just be discussing how crowdfunding addresses the valley of death for Canadian entrepreneurs. But first off, welcome Jaime. Please tell us, how did you get into working for FrontFundr, and how did you get into due diligence?
Thanks. Yeah, so I first started off my career in Vancouver at Deloitte, and I was working with a lot of startup entities there, and that's when I truly found that I had a passion for them, and I definitely wanted to provide value to them. And FrontFundr kind of fell upon my lap, and I took the leap of faith, and I haven't looked back ever since. It's been great.
Fantastic. So what type of companies come to FrontFundr to seek capital?
So we're definitely industry agnostic. We've seen many different industries reaching out to us and trying or seeing if they can raise capital with us. Some notable industries that we've worked in and spaces that we've worked in are definitely like the impact space, the local space. For like the impact space, we've worked with renewable energy, sustainable timber, hydrogen fuel, vegan meat. And then for local companies, we worked with Red Mountain, so a ski resort, cannabis companies, breweries, Rio Theater, a whiskey company from Vancouver Island, and FrontFundr itself.
Wow, so really a very broad range of companies, very different industries that are coming forward. So what stage do they tend to be in their development?
So we also work with every stage in development as well. Mostly we kind of see the sweet spot being early companies looking to raise funds for growth. Usually we see companies using the capital they raise through the FrontFundr platform for technology development and marketing to really start scaling up the company and building a sustainable entity.
Okay. So what I'm hearing really is crowdfunding on FrontFundr is really, you know, an opportunity for any type of company at any stage of their career looking really to grow. So I suppose that's the only thing that sort of is a common factor with all of them. So what sort of funding have they, you know, prior to coming to FrontFundr, what sort of funding have they sought so far? How did they get to where they are today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, typically we see some entities doing sweat equity, which we like to see because then you show the management commitment there. Friends and family rounds, we've seen grants, we've seen banks, rewards-based crowdfunding such as Kickstarter, which definitely helps leverage kind of like a community that they can also look towards for their equity crowdfunding raise. Venture capital, and then angels as well. And then something recently that we've been doing is working in tandem with companies that have higher capital expenditures, such as breweries. And these companies usually have term sheets with notable banks, but they also need to fill the debt equity requirement. So they come to us to kind of get brand champions for the brewery, but then also get their debt equity requirements so they can actually get the bank funding.
Mm-hmm. And so I suppose some of those are quite interesting. It's like grants, you've got them non-dilutive, whereas some of the other ones are dilutive.
Mm-hmm.
So is there, you know, it sounds like there's, you know, lots of different options there. And, you know, especially with the VC and angels, it's almost like the VC and angels have the big bucks, but they're one or two people. Whereas, you know, in the community, you can then get a community of followers. So I think that's, you know, what you know, for the breweries, they're looking for followers. So you're also looking for that marketing benefit as well as just the money to grow.
Definitely.
So with the companies that you've dealt with, what seems to work? You know, what are the challenges?
That's a great question. I guess what seems to work in almost every case in life and what are the challenges is definitely communication. So I think communication and understanding why you're going to FrontFundr, really asking why. So I guess before FrontFundr, companies would raise capital through manually signing investment documents and rounding up accredited investors or pitching to venture capital companies. With FrontFundr, now companies can leverage their networks, the general public, their clients and everything, and truly like leverage people they know and the general public to raise capital. I think FrontFundr is definitely an avenue to be used if you want efficient ways to raise capital from signing to close. It's all online, it's all automated, no more needing to carry a sub-agreement underneath your armpits going to a coffee meeting. We can definitely help you leverage your brand and create brand champions due to the fact that we are an exempt market dealer, so we can help you raise capital from your clients. I think challenges revolve around getting early investors in on the raise. So we truly believe that you should get about 20% of your target raise within the first week. Often this is through like the company's close network, and this is something that helps get validation for the raise and get the crowd mobilized.
Mm-hmm. So planning, that seems part of it, but you mentioned an interesting point about sort of the paperwork and the traditional way, and the fact you can only get 3% of Canadians can invest. So is that, you know, one of the key things you see as a difference here is, you know, the fact that it's not paper based, and the fact that everyone's eligible to invest.
Definitely.
Cool. So the title, we shouldn't really ignore the title of this webinar. So what is the Valley of Death, and why is it so prevalent in Canada?
Yeah, so I think I would describe it as kind of the scale up stage. It's the period of time spanning between when a startup receives its initial capital, so either through friends and family or sweat equity, etc., to when it begins generating revenues and becoming more of a cash flow positive firm. I think like the issue here is in Canada during this phase, financing is usually scarce. I think the reason for that in Canada is because Canadians are typically a little bit more conservative when it comes to investing and putting their money in certain places. They aren't necessarily looking to invest in a company that hasn't conquered its innovation or scale-up phase yet. So that leaves them more vulnerable to cash flow requirements, and definitely more vulnerable to going towards other investors who may ding them on valuation or just like not to provide them enough of their funding requirements.
So what I'm hearing then is that, you know, there is a role specifically for crowdfunding that it can play. So is there a sweet spot, you would say, for crowdfunding?
100%. Yeah, so I think what it goes back to is that in the past, these entities that were in the Valley of Death, they weren't, they're just about to be cash flow positive. They're afraid to be dinged on the valuations by going to VC and angels. So this is a really like risky part of a company and its phase. At this point, these entities usually have a early following of adopters and loyal customers and people who truly believe in them. With FrontFundr, you can now actually leverage this network and these followers to actually get investors in on your company, people who truly believe in you. And rather than getting a large amount from a few investors, you can actually raise capital from a small amount of investors. So truly build a following of people who believe in you. And I think FrontFundr is great in this retrospect because you can leverage your network and your followers to create brand champions. And then you can utilize the efficient and automated FrontFundr platform to also process those accredited investors that you typically would have gone after. And something that's exciting about FrontFundr is that you can create your campaign page and you can start communicating through social media, etc. And if your offering is exciting amount, you may actually reach your target and gain your financing through a large amount of people and really conquer the valley of death.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So really what I'm hearing there is, you know, there's a very much you know, when it comes to the valley of death, that you know, crowdfunding is an excellent option because you're able to take the people who believe in you. Each of them are able to put a small amount of money in. So, you know, it is high risk at this stage, but then, you know, it's a managed risk. And then, but everyone also benefits from that because, of course, usually with high risk, there's a potential for high reward.
100%.
So you've got that. But what I'm also hearing is actually whilst you know, crowdfunding can help with that, with the valley of death, it actually can help almost anywhere in the cycle. So, you know, whether you're sort of at that very early stage, you're pre-revenue, you know, but you have, you know, a great idea and a great team, but you don't necessarily have the money to take it to the next level, then you can actually, you can look to crowdfunding. But also if you're at a much later stage and you're just looking for growth funding, then you can actually, you know, come in. And I think there are a number of companies on the platform that are even in the mature stage who are using FrontFundr now. So I think that's really interesting from that point of view. Just going to open it up to the floor just to see if there's any questions out there. I can see we've got a few people in. So just for anybody who is listening in, there's a Q&A button just at the bottom of your screen. And if you just click on that, you will be able to ask us any questions and we'll be able to answer those for you. I have got a question coming in. So just we're talking about sort of, you know, VCs and sort of angel investors and crowdfunding. So, you know, if a company is looking at funding, you know, why would they go with FrontFundr and crowdfund versus going down the route of, say, a venture capitalist?
Okay, yeah. So I think there's many reasons why a company would choose FrontFundr over a venture capitalist. One of the most notable reasons we see for companies who don't necessarily need us but want to go towards us is the fact that they can truly utilize this as not only a way to raise capital, but also market their brand. So what we saw for some companies, especially local companies, is that they heard of us through local events, etc., and they really wanted to utilize us to access the people who truly believe in them and their followers to raise capital from those people. And it's been a successful business kind of idea for many of those entities, and definitely has helped them in the past improve their revenues as well for the following year, because then you actually have people who have a vetted interest in your entity.
Yeah. Well, that makes good sense. Although I am hearing that there are a number of people who are doing more sort of the blended option, which is that they're using the community, but also bringing in VC and angels. And I'm also hearing a lot about the angels who actually like the fact they can go online and they can peruse a number of different campaigns and you know, make an informed decision. So
Exactly.
it's, I think what I'm hearing is it's completely flexible and there's lots of different options for people. So definitely if you're a company, you're considering, you know, raising your next round of capital, I would say please reach out to FrontFundr and ask, you know, ask more questions and see if this is a good fit for you. It isn't a good fit for everybody, so it's always a good place to check out. So I just want to say thank you very much, Jamie, for joining us today. I think some really good insights on the types of companies that come on FrontFundr and why. And one of the things I will say is FrontFundr is currently the largest investment campaign, investment crowdfunding company in Canada. There's been over 30 successful raises on the platform, and the companies have raised over sort of 20 million through that time. So, you know, certainly a significant amount of money. Really, the company is poised for success. So if you are looking at supporting Canadian companies, and we know that private Canadian companies are the growth engine of Canada, then FrontFundr is currently running a campaign on their site. If you go to the site now, www.frontfundr.com, you'll actually see a banner at the top. Just click on that, have a look at the campaign, and if you want to support Canadian companies, please come on board and invest in FrontFundr. Thank you very much, Jamie.
Thanks, Victoria.
All right, bye.
You too.